The very first question that we're going to ask ourselves when we infer is, what is suggested by the source? Okay, now remember, an inference is an educated guess where the author is not going to come right out and say what they think, but we as the readers have to figure out what the author is trying to say. So if I look at this text, the two most important paragraphs to kind of go back to is this paragraph right here, where it mentions all the wrong things that the legislature of Georgia did. For example, they passed laws whose direct and only object was the acquisition of Cherokee lands, and while they did this, they trampled on the feelings, the persons, the property, and the individuals who lived there of the Cherokee Nation. So for me, this paragraph, even though the New York Committee does not say directly, this paragraph makes the legislature of Georgia look like the enemy. Okay. Now, if we go to the next paragraph, we see a similar story, a similar legal fight. But this time, the Cherokee have tried various legal methods. They've gone to the Supreme Court, they've written a constitution, but they have been unsuccessful. And for me, this makes the Cherokee look as if they are victims in this situation. And so right away, the reader can see that the author of this document really wants to make the settlers look like the enemies and the Cherokee look like the victims. So I'm going to add this to our graphic organizer here. I'm going to say the New York Committee uses language to make the legislature of Georgia look like the enemy and the Cherokee look like the victim. Our next question that we're going to look at is, what interpretations may be drawn from the source? And if I go back to my original inference, where I could see that the legislature of Georgia is portrayed as the enemy and the Cherokee are portrayed as the victims, the interpretation that I can get from this is that the New York Committee is trying to get some kind of action from the people. Now, even though they don't come right out and say, hey, look how evil the legislature of Georgia is, and look at the poor Cherokee people, I believe that this letter is meant to get some action. And another way that I can kind of confirm this is when I look up at the first sentence, they're sort of saying, we address you, friends of justice and humanity. And this use of the words friends of justice and humanity is what really stands out to me. Because if you want to be a good person, if you believe in justice, if you believe in human beings, then you're going to clearly see that some serious things have been happening to the Cherokee people, and something needs to be done about it. And so over here on my graphic organizer, I'm going to add this information. You could say one could interpret that this letter is a call for action. The New York Committee is appealing to readers' sense of justice and humanity to see that the Cherokee are being treated very unfairly. The next question that we're going to look at is what perspectives or points of view are indicated in the source. And we've already talked about whose perspective this is. We know this is the New York Committee. We know that they want to help the Cherokee Nation, but we're getting deeper into our analysis. So we need to think about, we need to make some inferences about this perspective. And one question that sort of comes up for me is the New York Committee's ideas about helping the Cherokees, is this an unusual opinion? Or in other words, is this a popular opinion? Were a lot of people against the Indian Removal Acts? And based on what I know about history, I think it actually is an unusual opinion. Because when Andrew Jackson ran for office, for president, he promised the people that he was going to remove the Native Americans from their territories. And people voted for him. And so I'm assuming that that represents more of a popular majority opinion, and that this is sort of an unusual opinion. If, people that want to help the Cherokee, and so I'm going to put that on our graphic organizer. Perhaps the opinion, perhaps the perspective of the New York Committee is unusual for this time. Andrew Jackson's ideas were more popular. The last question that we're going to ask ourselves when we infer is, what inferences may be drawn from absences or omissions in the source? And one of the, interestingly enough, when you look at this text, I don't see any of the traditional arguments for the Indian Removal Act. For example, I don't see anything about finding gold. I don't see anything about helping the Native Americans escape disease, or paying for the first year of their lives on their new reservation. I don't see anything that is positive about the Indian Removal Act that so many people argued for. And I think the fact that they leave that out shows that they are very, very much against the Indian Removal Act and really want to show all the negative sides of this and show how, this really is a violation of human rights for the Cherokee. The fact that they took their property, they trampled on these people, and the fact that the Cherokee have, tried so many things to prevent this from happening. They, the people who wrote this letter want to show this is a major civil rights violation, and not appeal to any of these, positive things that people like Andrew Jackson are saying. And so what I'm going to put is, on here on my graphic organizer, is this letter does not include any positive attributes of the Indian Removal Act. They want to show that this is a civil rights violation.